On the morning of December 1, 1948, a man was found slumped against the seawall on Somerton Beach in South Australia. He was dressed meticulously in a suit and tie, his shoes polished, his legs crossed. The police searched his pockets to identify him. They found an unused train ticket, a used bus ticket, some chewing gum, an aluminum comb, and a pack of Army Club cigarettes. They did not find a wallet. There was no cash, no passport, and no identification of any kind. Then they looked closely at his clothing. Every single maker's tag on his trousers, his shirt, and his jacket had been surgically snipped away. This was a man whose entire existence had been wiped clean before he took his final breath on the sand. The autopsy revealed a body in severe distress. The pathologist documented massive internal hemorrhaging, acute gastritis, and an enlarged congested spleen. These are the strict biological markers of a swift and lethal poisoning. Expert chemists tested his blood and organs, looking for the toxic agent. They ran the samples again and again, searching for heavy metals, barbiturates, or alkaloids. The results came back entirely clean. There was zero trace of any known chemical agent in his system. No standard suicide pill and no common murder weapon could leave such an invisible signature. The leading chemical experts of the era were left staring at empty glass flasks, completely baffled by a poison that killed effectively and then vanished. The authorities were left with a locked room mystery on an open beach. They had a victim with a phantom identity, killed by a phantom weapon. A month later, staff at the Adelaide railway station realized a brown suitcase had been sitting unclaimed in their cloakroom since the morning before the man died. Inside, investigators found a stenciling brush used on cargo ships, a reel of unusual orange thread that matched a repair on the dead man's trousers, and more clothing with the tags meticulously removed. 3 items, however, carried the printed name T. Keane. The police ran the name across every missing persons database in the country. It yielded 0 matches. The labels had been purposefully left intact to force investigators down a dead end. Months passed before a pathologist conducting a secondary search of the dead man's trousers found a hidden watch fob pocket sewn deep into the waistband. Tucked inside was a tiny, tightly rolled scrap of paper, printed with 2 Persian words, Tamám Shud. It translates to, "It is finished." Every physical artifact investigators recovered only deepened the silence, leaving the police with a trail that seemed to vanish into the sand. The scrap of paper had a distinctive font. Library experts traced it to a rare edition of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a 12th century book of poetry. A man eventually brought that exact book to the police, explaining someone had tossed it into his unlocked car near Somerton Beach around the time of the death. On the back cover, police found faint pencil indentations. Under a UV light, they revealed 5 lines of capital letters, with 1 line crossed out. Naval Intelligence cryptographers analyzed the letter frequencies. The structure failed to align with traditional substitution algorithms or transposition ciphers. To military experts, the sequence appeared to be an uncrackable one-time pad. The book also contained an unlisted phone number. It belonged to Jessica Thompson, a 27-year-old nurse who lived just 400 meters from where the body was discovered. When detectives showed her a plastered death mask of the Somerton man, she looked as though she was about to faint. Yet she maintained a stubborn, absolute denial. She claimed she had no idea who the man was. The terrified silence of their only physical lead closed the local investigation. To find answers, the public and the authorities began looking into the shadows of international geopolitics. In 1948, Australia was gripped by deep post-war paranoia. The Soviet bloc was consolidating, and the fear of foreign espionage was a daily reality for the public. Adelaide served as a critical transit hub for scientists and military personnel traveling to the classified Woomera rocket testing range, a facility central to British and Australian defense. The missing labels, the phantom poison, and the unbreakable military cipher combined to form the exact silhouette of an elite Soviet spy. The media eagerly consumed this narrative. Newspapers across the country printed the code and speculated about international conspiracy. The nameless corpse was elevated from a local mystery to a master operative caught in a deadly geopolitical game. In the total absence of verifiable facts, society took a blank human canvas and painted its most terrifying, thrilling anxieties right over him. The coastline of Somerton Park modernized. The Cold War ended, and the century turned. The identity of the man on the beach remained completely unknown. In 2022, University of Adelaide professor Derek Abbott and forensic genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick bypassed the cryptic artifacts. They secured access to the original 1948 plaster death mask and extracted viable DNA from hair follicles trapped in the plaster. They uploaded the genetic markers to genealogical databases, identifying a distant cousin. From there, they meticulously constructed a family tree of 4,000 people, triangulating the data until it pointed to a single, undocumented branch. 74 years of traditional forensic and cryptographic analysis had failed. Biological reality succeeded. The Somerton man was Carl Charles Webb. He was a 43-year-old electrical engineer and instrument maker born in Melbourne. He had no death record, having simply vanished from the public eye in April 1947. The T-teen labels found in his suitcase were not the tradecraft of a secret agent. Webb's brother-in-law was named Thomas Keene. The pristine, untagged clothes were simply second-hand hand-me-downs. The unbreakable military cipher was not a code at all. Webb had a fondness for poetry and a habit of betting on horses. The indented letters were his personal shorthand for tracking race bets. The lens of espionage paranoia had accidentally weaponized ordinary working-class habits. When viewed clearly, the international conspiracy dissolves back into the life of an electrical engineer. Carl Webb traveled to South Australia for a highly personal reason. He was a desperate man trying to track down his estranged wife, Dorothy, who had separated from him and moved to the area. The torn piece of paper in his pocket takes on a different weight. Tamám Shud. It is finished. It was not a cryptic calling card for a foreign intelligence agency. It was a heartbroken man's poetic final declaration to himself. The enduring legacy of the Somerton man reveals little about the Cold War. Instead, it holds a mirror to our own nature. When faced with the quiet, mundane tragedy of a broken heart, we will almost always choose the thrill of the fiction.